Recently I uncovered my old Beastars video essay from 3 years ago and I decided to give it a spiffy new update, improving the visuals, audio quality and some of the points that I thought could be made better. If you don't know yet, the avatar I'm using on this channel is Legoshi from the Beastars manga. Mainly because I love the expression of the character, but also because I found him to be a very relatable character as well. I guess it just left an impression on me, especially at the time that the anime came out. Legoshi is a protagonist who encompasses a lot of the qualities of many other shonen protagonists, but unlike Goku and Luffy, who focus more on external challenges, Legoshi has to deal with internal and societal challenges, at least for season 1. Yes, there are external enemies in the series, but predominantly Legoshi battles with his own identity, and it's a subject that many people can relate to, and one that I would like to explore in this video. For those who don't know, Beastars is an anime based on a manga by Haru Itagaki, who is also the daughter of the most Giga Chad manga author Keisuke Itagaki, author of Baki the Grappler. And the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, as Haru brings a very inspiring coming-of-age story. Yes, it's set in an anthropomorphic world where people are animals, but don't let the furry element of the series put you off, because the series is surprisingly human in its allegory. Unlike the other pseudo-intellectual essayists, like Jack Saint,
I'm gonna make the bold claim that Beastars is a profoundly queer text.
What the hell did I just walk into?
or Oceanus.
Okay, hear me out. Animal racism.
I won't bore you with the surface level interpretation that Beastars is about racism or queer ideology.
Feel free to ask the two of them for more details.
Because at its core, Beastars is about finding your place in the world and learning to embrace your own existence. And who better to exemplify that than best boy Legoshi?
Roar, X3.
For a better understanding of what I'm talking about, I recommend you watch the first 3 episodes of Beastars, as I'll be covering them in this video. I will also be referencing Dr. Jordan B. Peterson, as I think he's an expert in Jungian psychology, and his teaching material fits so well that it makes me wonder whether Haru was watching his videos while she's writing the manga. The series starts with arguably the most important moment in the series, one that kicks off Legoshi's entire journey. We see that Legoshi, a large grey wolf, is attacking Haru, a small dwarf rabbit, with his narration saying,
"That was the moment I discovered the small rabbit and my instincts."
The reason why this scene is so important is because it separates Legoshi into 2 separate characters, the Legoshi before the incident and the Legoshi after the incident. Before the event, we can see that Legoshi is quite a passive character who keeps his distance from other students, especially herbivores. Despite being an apex predator, Legoshi doesn't hold much status in the school. He's a loner and prefers to stay in the shadows. His slouched body posture also indicates a lack of confidence and assertiveness. Whether he's doing it consciously to make himself appear smaller and less intimidating to other animals is unclear.
To stand up straight with your shoulders back is to open yourself up to the world. You're not in the defensive crouch of a prey animal, technically speaking. And that is the circuitry that's governing posture. It's prey versus predator or something like that. And to stand up like that is to expose yourself to the world, but in a bring it on sort of manner. Not precisely combative, but let's say courageous. You see people like this on the street all the time. They could be perfectly attractive, except they're completely huddled in. They need to stand up and stretch themselves out.
But when Tem Delpaca is brutally murdered by a predator, the other students still see Legoshi as a potential threat, probably more so due to his reserved nature. While the show quickly establishes Legoshi as a kind-hearted guy who tries to appear non-threatening, it also showcases his resentment towards himself.
But it's just not fair to you.
It wouldn't really change anyone's opinion anyways. I'll be just fine. Feared and hated. That's the story of my life.
That's the problem too. If you're chronically rejected by people, it's often because of your own insufficiencies. Whether that's cowardice or lack of social skills or whatever it is. It's like, you can't just brush it off as, oh well, no one likes me, but really I'm okay. It's like, no, wrong. If everyone rejects you, there's probably something wrong, and it's probably deep and difficult, and it's going to be horrible to fix. And so this isn't a trivial problem.
He believes he's hated and feared solely because he's a wolf, and sees himself as a victim of an unfair and prejudiced world. So he's not trying to change anything. In other words,
Soy boy! Soy boy!
What an absolute soy boy.
sure, he still has a few friends who know him for his good-hearted nature, but his resentment towards himself and his agreeableness make him low status among his peers.
Lots of my clients, my clinical clients, are too agreeable. And what happens is they're resentful and they don't know how to stand up for themselves. And it's because they're very compassionate by nature. And so if you're entering into a negotiation with them, they'll let you win. Well, that's not so good, because you know you need to win too. Especially if you're in an organization of adults where there's a struggle.
The show introduces a deer named Louis, who is presented in stark contrast to Legoshi. Louis is confident, assertive, and loved by his peers. Even Legoshi is amazed by Louis' greatness.
His gestures, his voice, and his gaze. He must have it all down. Of course he does. It's Louis. He's only a year older than me, and he's the lead actor and pretty much runs the school.
Despite being an herbivore, Louis is at the top of the hierarchy in the school, implying that in this society, your species does not determine your place among the other animals.
You're the pup in the art department. I've got a task for you to do. Come on.
Louis doesn't need brute strength, claws, or fangs to be in charge. When he does get physical, it's more domineering than aggressive. Unlike Legoshi, who tends to keep his distance from others, Louis pulls others close to himself, getting uncomfortably close and intrusive to let others know who's in charge. Unlike the other herbivores, Louis is not afraid of Legoshi. In fact, he has a strange fascination with the wolf after seeing Legoshi protect him from the other student.
I figured you was a quiet tree, but you have a savage in you.
Excuse me.
Louis doesn't let Legoshi slink away either. He wants Legoshi to embrace the very thing that Legoshi is ashamed of.
You're a wolf. Take advantage of that. Let's see your dark side.
Louis gets Legoshi to be lookout while he and the other student goes to rehearse on the school stage at night. It makes sense why Louis picked Legoshi too. Wolves see well at night, they have good hearing and a powerful sense of smell, making them pretty good lookout. This leads us back to the first scene, where Legoshi catches the rabbit scent and gives in to his natural predatory instincts. My first question was, why did he give in to his instincts now over any other time? Like maybe when he was alone with Louis in the office? Of course, one could argue that this is due to years of repressed emotions, the death of his classmate, and Louis spurring him on, finally culminated in an act of aggression.
You say that you have to accept the fact that you're dangerous, or become dangerous. Because I'd also say that if you haven't done that kind of shadow work, if you haven't made friends with your anger, if you haven't integrated it, you're actually more dangerous.
Yes, definitely.
Because then things will happen that it will come out in a way that you don't expect.
Right, it comes out disintegrated. So it comes out as an autonomous spirit, right, under no one's control. And that's like a burst of rage, let's say. And it's like mayhem. And everybody goes, well, what happened? It's like, well, 7 terrible things came together at the same time and produced this outburst of disintegrated rage. And like, look the hell out when that happens.
This is also where we see the visual representation of the Jungian shadow, an archetype that encompasses all the negative traits of a character's personality. Typically, people try to reject or ignore this essential part of who they are, and Legoshi is trying to do just that.
Look at me. Face yourself. Can you see? I won't look. Go away.
The scene is pretty overt in how it visually represents Legoshi's battle with his own inner demons, showing how much control they have over him. I love how the shadow is hugging Legoshi, embracing him rather than the other way around.
You longed for this taste for 17 years.
Luckily, Legoshi snapped out of his violent state, but the metaphorical genie is out of the bottle. From this point, the old Legoshi is gone. This new Legoshi can no longer deny who he is. He encountered his shadow, and he can't deny its presence anymore.
Part of spiritual development is to recognize the satanic tendencies that characterize you, and to fully wrestle with them, and to integrate them. That's the thing. It's not so much to cast them away, it's to transmute them. You know, and you can see the difference between people who've done that and people who haven't, at least to some degree.
While acknowledging your shadow is an important part of your personal development, it does take a lot of time and effort to fully integrate it into your life. In Legoshi's case, we see exactly how acknowledging his shadow is taking a toll on him. His first choice is to isolate himself from others, putting himself into a metaphorical cage away from the rest of the world.
Legoshi!
But the world is not going to let him do that. as Legoshi is literally dragged out of his bed to start his day at the academy. By now, he tried to repress his shadow, destroy his shadow, and isolate himself from others. So the only thing left to do now is to live with the shadow. The change in Legoshi is prominent as he instantly gets involved in breaking up a school fight, something that the old Legoshi would have never done.
You feel the joy.
Enough!
What the heck is up with you, Legoshi?
He's touched by malevolence, right? The only reason he can stand up against evil is because there's some evil in him that he's incorporated, essentially.
It's funny to see him try to back out of getting involved, refusing to take advantage of every inherent physical trait that he has over the other student. Legoshi doesn't like conflict, which is why the other student is more willing to bully a far more powerful wolf.
Part of how you regulate your interactions with other people is to negotiate. And you cannot negotiate unless you can say no. You can't do it. And it causes conflict to say no, and if you don't like conflict, which is basically the definition of being agreeable, then you can't tolerate the conflict, and so then you can't negotiate on your own behalf, and so then you keep losing, and you're bullied, and you know, it's not good. Then you get resentful, and it's really not good.
Luckily, Giga Chad Louie comes in to save the day.
Instead of me, just worry about yourself.
After that, Legoshi is tasked with getting some flowers from the gardening club, where he stumbles upon a familiar scent and a familiar rabbit.
The Devil's Garden.
The relationship between Legoshi and Haru is worth exploring on its own, so I won't take too long in this video. In this scene, Legoshi finds himself trapped with a victim of his aggression. Even though Haru doesn't know that he's the one who attacked her in the previous night, Legoshi still has to deal with his own sense of guilt.
Huh? Don't ask her anything. What are you doing? Stop!
On the bright side, it's a lot easier to do with Haru, as the dwarf rabbit is surprisingly chilled being alone with the wolf, allowing Legoshi to deal with his internal emotions relatively peacefully. Haru and Louie are both beneficial characters who help Legoshi understand and accept himself. Neither of them treat him as a monster, and both have their ways of pushing the wolf towards maturity, in their own ways.
Why don't you take responsibility for who you are? If you can't hide it completely, I'd rather you show me your true self.
Louie especially finds Legoshi's attempt to hide his true nature offensive.
I'm telling you to show me your fangs.
Carnivores exposing their fangs to herbivores is forbidden.
I'm not just another herbivore! Don't hold back now. Large carnivores like you get on my nerves the most.
Louie doesn't want to be pitied or treated carefully around carnivores, because it diminishes his own value. If he can achieve so much only because predators are going easy on him, then his achievements are ultimately meaningless. In order to understand his own power, Louie needs to compare himself against Legoshi. But he can't do that unless Legoshi stops holding himself back.
Sophisticated people understand that you don't make men harmless by making them weak. You make them useful and responsible by helping them bring their capacity for mayhem and aggression under long-term, conscious, careful control. And that's part of the respect.
I need to pretend. Since there's no denying that wolves are strong.
After all the things that happened, Legoshi is finally allowed to quietly contemplate his own identity, which allows him to come to terms with who and what he is.
Is it true? What I told Louie? That I'm not just a monster lurking in the darkness. I'm a mammal, carnivore, and part of the Kennedy family. And I'm also a male wolf.
Which ultimately results in him feeling the happiness that he has been clearly missing for so long.
What's this emotion I'm feeling? I feel like I saw a glimpse of myself. I'm at a brighter place, feeling the drive to move forward. Oh, I get it. I'm feeling happy.
Legoshi's character arc in these 3 episodes is a perfect character study of Jungian shadow and showcases the issues we all have to face as we grow and develop our identities. It's only when people start to take responsibility for who they are and what they do that they can start to become part of civilized society and make the world a better place. I think this is especially true for men. For the past decade, you could see a media trend villainizing men, which one could argue gave rise to figures like Jordan Peterson, who's been encouraging young men to improve themselves.
We're so stupid. We're alienating young men. We're telling them that they're patriarchal oppressors and denizens of rape culture and tyrants in waiting, and we fail to discriminate between their competence and their tyranny. And it's awful. And I think, God, it's so sad that so many of these men, they've not had an encouraging bloody word, a real encouraging word in their entire life. It just takes a little bit of encouragement and care so that they're willing to set themselves straight to some degree and start trying. It's just a catastrophe that's so rare in their lives. And they're desperate for a discussion about responsibility and fair play and noble being and working properly in the world, and the idea and to hear the idea that their lives actually matter, that if they straighten themselves up and fly right, that they'll have a beneficial effect on themselves and their family and the community, and that the world is starving for that. And for them as individuals, not for them as a group, but for each of them as individuals. So, yeah, it breaks me up. Every time the topic comes up, it breaks me up.
Thank you guys for watching. I hope you found this video interesting and useful. I do recommend you look past the furry side of Beastars because there's a lot to gain from the show. If you enjoyed this analysis, please consider liking and subscribing. Thank you, and I'll see you around.